Okay, so this is part 4 of the video because I realised that I had some on Instagram that I hadn't answered. So in part 3, I talked a little bit about ink and nibs, and that was a question from Aussie Girl 64. So Aussie Girl 64, basically she's asked my favourite inks for fountain pens and pens in general when working with watercolour. I only use a dip pen, and I tend to use this Art Spectrum ink, partly because I like to use up what I've got and it lasts forever, and somehow I ended up with 3 lots of the black ink, so I don't know how that happened. So that tends to be the one I use. It's not very waterproof, but none of them are, but as long as the work underneath is dry, and I tend to use it as a finishing type thing. So that works for me. When I'm laying down ink before, which I tend to do, so what I do is I draw with ink, then I add watercolour, then I will ink over the top again. I will use either a micron, usually in 0.03 is the size that I most likely use, or I use one of these, which is a Uniball eye, and I either use it in micro or fine. A micro, I think, is a little bit similar to this. I reckon it's about a 0.03. This is closer to a 0.05. And they're my favourite. I love them because if you let them go dry, they are completely waterproof. But if you put them down and then you hit them with a little bit of a damp brush, they actually spread and they're just beautiful. You get a beautiful smear. So they're my favourite pens by a long way. I'm not flash about my pens. I don't get stressed. I don't have, a huge amount of them because I keep my supplies pretty lean, and these are the ones I know and I use them all the time and they always work for me. So that's why I keep them pretty lean, so to speak. And I think that also answered the question from Sue's Knock as well, because she asked me about favourite nib size. 0.03 is a good standard nib size. I like quite a fine line, and then if I'm putting in a lot of detail work, I do use a micron 0.005 a lot. So I really like that for really fine work. But otherwise, excuse me, leaning forward, I just use this standard, fairly cheap nib. I've got a whole box of nibs that I never use. I just always use that same one. All right. Aussie Girl also wants to know about any inks that smudge, smear nicely. That's the Uniball. Change colour or sheen. Not really. Look, I do really keep it simple. Okay, that just suits me and the way I work. Port News 55. What sort of pens and pencils do you use? Pencils, I like the Albrecht. Oh no, what am I like here? The Castell 9000s. Fantastic soft leads. Just great. I love them as a pencil. My favourite medium to work with, watercolour. Watercolour, watercolour. If it's not watercolour, it's lino. Like those two things. And, drawing is the basis of all of them. If I could never use anything else, I would happily never use it. But those I would miss. I love them both deeply. How much time do I spend doing art? I spend hours and hours every day. Because I work as an illustrator and commissions and things like that, I spend as much time as I possibly can on them. I'm pretty crap at the business side, so I tend to cram that all into like one session a week if I can, of sending out invoices and all that stuff. But I draw pretty much every day. I'm hellish to live with if I don't draw or paint something, so everyone tends to get out of my way until I've at least done something, and then I'll go and do it. But I'm one of these people, I will get up early so that I can paint something before I have something on, so that I don't miss out. Like, I get a bit antsy if I haven't drawn or painted something. In my work week, I will often spend 6 to 8 hours painting straight, drawing and painting. That's just what I have to do. So you know, in terms of how much time do I spend, a ridiculous amount of time. You know, that's what I do. So there you go. What got me started? I've always painted. I've always drawn. I've got an uncle who was always really encouraging. My godfather was very encouraging. My dad painted. My mum was really creative, and she used to create these amazing knitted jumpers where she would, you know, design them. I've got, you know, my uncle he always encouraged me when I was young. I loved it at school, so I've just always done it. I can't pinpoint anything. I do remember being more excited about a box of crayons as a present than anything else I got that year, and I got that from my uncle Braddo, and it's one of my most vivid memories is getting these incredible box of, like, it just had every colour under the sun, including metallics. So I've always been a bit obsessed. Like, I remember it being a Christmas where I got other things. I have a feeling I got a scooter the same year, which you would think would have trumped it, but no, the crayons were the thing that really got me. So that's how I got started. In terms of doing it as a job, I just did it because I loved it and put it out online, and then people started approaching me. I'd taught art for years and years, but I started taking jobs, and it's just grown from there. What challenges do I have for myself? Okay, this is a good one, because my big challenge at the moment is obviously getting my lino class up and running. I'm trying to do a series in lino prints that are really large, which is kind of exciting. I'm in the middle of reframing my business, so I'm moving away from more illustration work. I'm actually collapsing that down, taking on less clients and putting more into the work that really makes me happy, like the lino printing and a lot more watercolours and selling more of them online. So I'm sort of shifting away from illustration and shifting more towards teaching online, which I love, and doing work and trusting that I maybe don't need the illustration so much, that I can make enough money selling the work that I love. And so that's sort of the big leap at the moment. And also doing this sort of thing is really a big challenge to me. Like, it makes me pretty nervous, but it's good. You know, you've got to keep pushing yourself. So thank you very much for that question, Port News 55. It was a cracker. And thank you all. Like, this is quite an epic series, I know. And I'm kind of exhausted, and I feel as though I need a big pot of tea. And if you've watched them all in one sitting, you probably do as well. So if you've got any other questions, let me know. Or if you've got anything to say, put it in the comments below. And thanks for watching.